Can you see me okay? Am
Oh
I
yeah,
kind
no,
of
I see
dark?
you good. No, you
Okay,
look great. You look fantastic. How's
thanks.
how's the quarantine looking? Ooh, yeah, chef.
The
Yeah,
the COVID cut. Oh,
yeah. The COVID cut.
yep, yep,
I've seen the memes with the ones with the bowl across and the ones that go
yeah.
across this
Oh, it could be so much worse.
way.
It could be worse.
It could, oh, well, see, that's just it though, right? It could always be worse, but you can only do what you can do, and
Yeah,
you can only, you know,
yeah,
whatever you can do is what you can do,
yeah. It could also be better if we're being honest.
and it could also be
Like,
better. It should be
so
better.
just we just take the reality of it.
Yeah, one day at a time.
So
Okay, so
yeah, man.
we didn't meet last week because it was Easter, and
True.
yo, how was Easter with you guys? Was it good?
Yeah, yeah. It was good. We saw our family from a distance. Um, Rachel's mom dropped off like Easter baskets for all the grandkids.
Oh, that's cool.
Um, so they stopped by and like put them on the sidewalk, and then we went and got them, and we took like a long distance selfie, like spread across the yard. It was like 13 of us.
Oh my gosh.
And so it was nice. I mean, it just sucks,
Yeah.
not being able to be with your family.
Yeah. No.
It's just a hard time. I mean, I wanna hug people, you know.
Yeah.
I just wanna give people a big hug, and I just can't do it.
Yeah. No.
So
That part does suck.
it
Yeah.
does. So all right. So the week we did talk last, I gave you a task.
Okay,
All
so
right.
go.
Actually, first, how was your Easter?
Oh, my Easter was good. I had the kids that weekend, and we were able to hang out for a little bit. Uh, did some. Oh, I'm gonna join you. Did some. What do we do? We did Easter baskets, which was a lot of fun. Did the Easter hunt, which of course I stupidly forgot that I had ants in the backyard, so that so the ants almost killed. There's a lot of ants. The ants almost killed. The ants almost killed the situation, and
Oh man.
yeah, that was not fun. So after cleaning up the ants, hung out. I made a ham. There we go, and made the ham. That was a lot of fun. They liked it. They actually ate it. First ham
Your
I ever
kids
did.
did?
Yeah, yeah. They actually ate, food. That wasn't like.
That's like that becomes like objectively like a really sad bar, but like as a parent, seriously, like as a parent, like getting your kid or your kids, especially if they're picky, and mine are so, oh my gosh, it drives me nuts. Anyways, but like getting them to eat something is like, yeah, all right, way to go.
Getting.
But then you look at that and you're like, I just got so excited that my kid ate a regular human meal. Like,
But it's a victory. It's such a victory. It's such a
it is,
victory. Like
yeah,
you really have to be in the parenting to know how big of a victory that is sometimes when
yeah,
like all the food is actually eaten.
yeah,
It's a win,
yeah.
man.
In the different stages of your life, the victories sure do look different, man. They sure do look different.
Yeah.
Hey, my kid pooped in the toilet. Yeah.
He peed. He didn't pee on the floor this time. He peed in
Yeah.
the actual toilet this
Yeah.
time.
That's
Wins.
because I make him. That's because I make him sit down. Sit down. You want
Right.
a secret to keeping a boy from peeing on the seat? Make him sit down.
Yeah. Yeah. And even then sometimes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
No,
There's no way around it.
no, it is what it is, man. But no, Easter was
So
good. Easter was good. I'm glad your Easter was good. And yes, you did leave some homework. Man, you've had me sweating about this
I
homework,
did.
dude. For real.
Really? Come on, you got this.
Well, because it
The
made
lowest you can get is a 70. The lowest you can get is a 70. You're
Hey,
safe. This is a safe
my
place, Juan.
my camera is turned on and I showed up. So
Hey, that's all it takes.
that's nine.
That's
That's
all it takes.
99.
Yeah. Cheers to
Yeah.
that.
Cheers.
Are you drinking Corona? Oh my gosh.
I'm
Uh,
I'm all in, man. I'm all in.
you are. That's commitment.
I know that's commitment. Okay. So what was the question again? It's just a
Yeah. No, I didn't do the homework either. So if
No,
I
I do.
answer
No,
anything,
I
it's
do
gonna
have
be on the
a
fly.
no, you said it was something that was like the top 3 situations or circumstances that happened in your life that like changed you or gave you the most impact.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. What are 3 experiences that have shaped or impacted you as a person?
Right. Okay. So I thought about this and I kept thinking about other situations, but honestly, there's this one that really like kept coming back in my head. All right. So I wasn't born here. I was born in Mexico. My parents were all from there. My dad was a biochemist, and he and some other people started a company in the Rio Grande Valley, like McAllen area. So when we were young, I mean, I think I was 6 or I can't remember if I was 6, 7, or 8, but I was really, really young, and we moved over here. And I don't have the same story as a lot of people have that we struggled. I mean, we were very well off. We came over here. We were really well off here. We were well off over there. Like things were like pretty good. But then everything kind of like went up in smoke, and then we were struggling. Um, well, in the middle of all that, of all that stuff going on, um, we had to get ourselves, the company took care of all our paperwork. So we didn't have to worry about like our legal situation or anything because they took care of everything. So we had
Was
paper.
that with your dad's? When you said a company, you mean your dad's company,
Yeah, the
like
dead.
the company that he worked for?
Right. Um, Now there was a point where they changed the rules, and then you used to not be able to it used to be that your green card lasted forever, and then it was like, okay, well now your green card's gonna last you 10 years, and so we had to go get a new one. And I remember going to get the new one. We got the new one, no big deal, and it's there. But then I ended up losing it, and I can't remember how old I was. I was probably 4th, 5th grade, something like that. And I remember we were supposed to go because we would go to Mexico like all the time. We'd cross the border. I mean, we were living on the border, so going to
Right.
Mexico back then was like, dude, we'd
Yeah.
leave on a Saturday, we'd go shopping, we'd have dinner. It would be a grand old time. We'd come back.
Yeah.
It was back in
Right.
the 80s. I mean, it was no
Yeah.
big deal.
Yeah.
Partying
It's like
when I it's like
it's
what?
like going through security before 9/11.
Oh yeah, just like come on, grandma, go say bye at the terminal. Like like everybody could come. Like it was no big deal. Yeah, 100%. I mean, high school, man, we were there in Mexico like all the time. Like it was just a whole other environment.
Yeah.
Anyways, so we lost it. I lost it, and I struggled, and he was super pissed. He was super mad because we had to go do something, and we couldn't find the green card. And I finally found it. It was in my room. I don't know why I did this. Yeah, obviously, right? And I don't even know where. It was like some weird spot in my room. Anyways, I don't know why I did this, but when I came up to my parents, they were in the living room and they were all mad and everything. And I said, yeah, I found it. And then my mom was like, oh, well, where'd you find it? And then I said, in dad's stuff. And I remember my mom was like, why did, because they lent, they gave it to me to hold on to. And they're like, why did you have it? Like this whole time, we were looking for it, but why did you have it? I remember my dad was like, well, I wanted to teach him a lesson. And so she was like, and then they got into it. So then it was like, well, why are you holding on to this? It's a waste of time. And he's like, well, I need to teach him a lesson. Blah, blah, blah. Now, a backstory to that is that my dad has had, up until this point, he had two brain tumors. And the two brain tumors affected him dramatically, right? They were like grapefruit size in the front of his head. Um, I think this time was right about this time the second one. He had the second one, and he had, I think he's had up to 6 now. They're non-malignant meningiomas, so they're not cancer. They're just gross. Um, and I don't know why I lied. I don't know why I lied, but then I also don't know why he went with it. Now, looking back, I don't know if that has something to do with his tumor. I didn't know if he was confused. It's kind of hard to have a portrait of my dad because I don't know who he is because of the tumors. And I only say that now in retrospect, but at the time, he was a very mean, very aggressive person. Uh, Lots of abusive stuff going on when I was a kid. But I remember that moment specifically because I felt like, oh crap, I can't rely on people. Like, like, like I'm on my own. And that really, I didn't realize it at the time, but that really, really shook me because number one, couldn't rely on him. Number two, he just lied for I don't even know why. Like no idea what the motivation was for him lying for for that reason. And then number three, it's like, well, now what? You know what I mean? Like what do I do? Like holy crap! Like what do I do? How do I deal with this?
Yeah.
And and I remember that's I stopped. I don't want to say I stopped respecting him, but there was a definite uh dethroning kind of, like there was definitely like, oh wow, this guy, I thought it was super cool, and holy
Yeah.
crap, yeah. And and it just, I don't know, it just it like I said, it was something that was so mundane, that was so not a big deal, well, when you asked me, I couldn't shake that idea in my head, like, wow. And I really think that impacted me in the sense that it made me it just made me realize, like, no, I can't rely on people. Like, I have to do things on my own. Um because even though he wasn't really the protector, but he was good at being the protector. Does that make any sense? Like 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 he wasn't good at actually doing the protecting and like the defending, but if you needed him to like step up at that second, he kind of would.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he wouldn't, but he'd only do it for like that moment, and there wasn't a
So it's
lot of
like, so it's kind of like circumstantial and not really part of his identity.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, it, and I don't even know if because he didn't know how. Like I don't know if it was because, but there was just a lot of things he did that he could have easily. I don't know. He could have protected us from a lot of things, but he didn't. And but there was also times when we didn't know what to do, and for some reason he just like would step up and like make stuff happen.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like there was a lot of times when we struggled financially, you know, and Christmas always happened. You know what I mean? Like stuff
Yeah.
happened and we never knew how. Like even my mom was like, I don't know half the time how he
Yeah.
pulled stuff off, but he did, Birthdays happened, things happened, um, and things got done. But at the same time, I don't know how. Like I never knew how to rationalize that event. I guess I never knew how to wrap my mind around that. And I guess the only thing I could say was that yeah, okay, it just kind of made me a lot more self-reliant. And not that I said never, but I just started to not rely on people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to
Yeah.
be honest, I don't really. don't- I I don't really. I mean, I ask, you know what I mean, but it took me a long
Yeah.
time to ask
Yeah.
because I didn't want the rejection. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there you
I
go.
do.
I was like, I don't know what I got on that one, but
No, man. I mean, it's like I don't know. A lot of that reminds me of some of my experiences with my dad.
yeah.
Um, and I don't know. I think that people are complicated,
Oh,
man.
they
I
are.
mean, you just like on the one hand, like you like your takeaway from that situation is like I can't. Well, I don't know why I did it. Surely you should know why you're doing it, and like he doesn't know, and then you don't know, and you're like, it sounds like one of those moments where like the rug gets pulled out from underneath you and you find yourself looking up at the ceiling wondering what just happened,
And you know
you
what?
know?
That's honestly, dude, that's really the best way I can explain it. That's exactly how it felt. It felt
Yeah.
oh, like what? Now what? Who
Yeah.
who 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 can I rely on? Like holy
Yeah.
crap.
Yeah. And I mean, which is kind of ironic because I mean, you kind of find out during some of those times that you can't really rely on yourself either.
Yeah.
Like you're like you don't. I'm not saying you,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but like we. It's real easy to look outwardly and blame or identify something in someone else and not take the time to think about well where am I in this, like what am I being motivated by, you know
Right.
um I mean, at that point, did you know that, like, had he had brain tumors by that point?
Yeah, he had already had two. And he had already had the second one. The second one,
And how old were you?
oh man, this must have been fourth, fifth grade. So what is that, like 10, 11-ish around there?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was pretty
Which is
aware.
like well, I mean, there's like also like um oh I don't know, just I think about brain science. You know, like what was your, like if you were 10 or 11 and you'd seen your dad already deal with like a couple brain tumors only um a couple years after, moving, I
Yeah.
mean those are some pretty significant like milestones. I wonder, and I'm not meaning to project anything on you, but I just think about like a 10-year-old kid lying, which, I mean, that's 10-year-old
Par.
kids,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Like,
par.
welcome to being a human. Um,
Exactly.
I think about that, and then I think about like probably like your brain's ability to process what your dad was experiencing, and I wonder if like you blaming him for like taking or like holding your green card or whatever was kind of a manifestation of your fear that something was going to happen to him. And so if you put it on him and that makes him responsible, then the heat is off you. So if something happens to him like on a much deeper level, then you've kind of created a situation where you can distance yourself from him because he took your stuff, right? It's much easier maybe to for a kid to kind of manufacture this scenario where maybe my dad's not a good guy,
Mm,
so maybe if I do the like, not that you're thinking any of this consciously, but
yeah.
I don't know. I wonder about the psychology of it. Maybe you were trying to protect yourself from like emotionally from something happening to him by
I
by making by maybe you like using that to kind of take him off a pedestal.
it's kind of funny that you say that because I mean, we when he went into surgery, uh the time before, and I'm trying to remember when he went, but it might have been around the same time. Um, he went and he was like he was up. It was like 5 a.m. or whatever, 4:30. And they woke me up and they're like, he's giving me a kiss goodbye or whatever. But then I had trouble going back to sleep because I was like, I know what that meant. Like I know exactly what it means, like what that was. You know what I mean? That was like,
Yeah,
hey, I love you, but I may not come back. Like, and
yeah,
I never thought about the fact that it's true. There was I kind of had to. I never thought about that, yeah, maybe I did. I did kind of have to separate myself from him a little bit earlier than I might have wanted to or needed to, only because I guess I just knew the reality of
yeah,
his situation, because the second time, the third one when he went in, that was I was a junior in high school, and that I mean, and that one, we saw the whole degradation. We saw his completely just kind of like go downhill, um, with like his speech and his memory and his body and just like everything. And then afterwards, we saw him get better and everything else. But yeah, that's true. I especially because I took on more responsibility. You know what I mean? Like I ended up being I ended up stepping, I don't want to say stepping into his shoes, but I ended up doing a lot of those things around the house only because, at some point he couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, wow, I never thought of it that. I never thought of that before, but yeah, that might have been my way of saying, oh well, you're just a bad guy. You're just, you know, and
Yeah.
and and now that I have that, it's like, okay, well now I can separate myself from you and like see you differently, not for the sake, not because that's actually who you are, but because I need that separation in order for me to like, just kind of wrap my mind around, just
Yeah.
kind of deal with it all.
I think a lot of times we do that though, I think,
Yeah.
you know, uh, especially with like younger kids or, teenagers or people who are not maybe as emotionally aware of themselves in relationships. Sometimes and I've been in relationships like that where like I'm gonna like I'm gonna sabotage this relationship because I'm worried that it's gonna happen
Right.
and I want control over it.
Yeah.
Like if this is gonna end, which I think it will, I want to end it on my terms.
Right.
Like I want like yeah, I think that there's like some like separation that sometimes we do in relationships or in circumstances with this mythical idea that we can escape pain.
Mm,
That if it happens, if we sever the relationship on our terms, then I'm not going to be heartbroken,
no.
right? Because it happened on my terms, and that's just, I mean, that's a total lie, right? Like, I mean, you can't avoid those things, especially. And I have a theory that every person has this experience with one or both of their parents where like you have either a small instance or like a huge event that kind of removes for kids their parents off of this pedestal,
Yeah.
right? like
Yeah.
like at some point my my kids aren't going to think that I'm cool
Yeah.
anymore, right? Like or or I'm going to do something or I'm going to react to something in a way that becomes that moment for them where they realize I'm just
A human.
a flawed human,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'm not a superhero. I'm not perfect, and I doubt they would say that I am, even at this point. But right, like but I remember, I mean, there's moments like that for me, like kind of dawning in stages that my dad is not this like was not this like stoic, incredible, unearthly strong person, that he was
Right.
just a guy
Yeah.
who made decisions and mostly accepted the consequences.
Yeah.
And that's a I think that even though it's just it maybe in retrospect it seems like a small situation for you, it it honestly, from the outside, seems like that could have been a pretty pivotal point in your relationship with him, because that's maybe one of the places where you can pretty clearly identify the rift. They're the wedge that started to separate your idea of your father from the reality of your father.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. After that, I did see him differently, 100%. And I think that's the hardest thing, and this is something that I talk to my mom about constantly, because it's hard when you have someone with, especially with that kind of illness, where personality changes,
Yeah,
behavior changes. It's so hard to figure out, okay, well, when you were nice, was that like you, or was that like the
yeah,
altered, was that the
yeah,
pressure in from the tumor causing your brain to like, cause, I don't know, be more empathetic that one time? Because guess
yeah.
what? Like, a few months ago, you were a complete asshole. Like, you were just a
Right.
really, really bad person. So, you know,
Yeah,
where are you? Like, who are you?
yeah,
You. Yeah, that's, oh yeah.
yeah. And I think that, I mean, my wife had a professor in college who um, was a recovering alcoholic, and at Tech he was the head of the um, like the substance abuse counseling and like, I guess, department, or what. I was like in the human development and family studies college, and there was people who wanted to major in substance abuse counseling and stuff like that, and this guy was like the head of that and built this like nationally renowned program um, for ex alcoholics and ex drug addicts. My wife Rachel she had a substance abuse counseling minor, majored in marriage and family studies, and one of the things that he said was, the thing about um, alcoholics who are parents is that they're inconsistent, right? Like, you
Mm.
don't know who you're getting, and inconsistency is a crazy maker,
Oh yeah.
right? That like people can handle really bad stuff if it's consistent,
Right.
right? Like the chaotic known is so much safer than the chaotic unknown.
100%.
And so, that makes me think of your dad, and like, I mean, the dude had brain tumors that were changing his personality, right?
Yeah.
Like, how much of who he was did he have control over?
Right.
And that's like a and is he still alive?
Yeah, he's still alive. Yeah, he's still alive.
And you know I mean, I don't know how open he is to talking about. I mean, but that would be something you could ask about, and he might not know. But I mean, y- and I don't know how lucid he is or how old he is or anything like that. But um, I mean, that would be a place where I wrestled. Like,
Yeah.
I would wrestle with, like, who like who are you now, right? And like,
Mm.
who were you then, and like, who were you in this circumstance, and who were you in that circumstance? And when you acted like this, was that you, or was that tumor pressing your cerebral cortex,
Right,
like
right, right, right.
what's the I don't know, man.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah,
And then I think, especially because now, and I think the other reason why I haven't been able to, I've been kind of thinking about this so much, is because, I'm in this new phase of my life where I'm now a single dad, and now here I am, like, pretty much responsible for, I mean, I was responsible for them before, but now I'm like
right.
100% like
Yeah.
responsible for them. And it's like,
Mhm.
well, you know, I don't want to be inconsistent like that. You know what I mean? Like, I
Right.
want to be consistent. I want to make sure that they know that they can trust me, that they know they can rely on me, that they know. And I think I've done a decent job of that, but I'm definitely now becoming as, like, and I know some people probably don't like this, what I'm about to say, but, like, for me, the best part of raising kids was, like, the diaper changes and the feedings and, like, all the tough stuff. And 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 I know, and the baths, like, all that kind of, like, all the, like, the mundane stuff for me was probably, like, especially when they were little, was probably, like, the best part, because that's how I got to know them. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I got to
Yeah.
know them, and that's how they got to know me. Like, they know, oh, for 7 o'clock it's bath time. Oh, they know that, oh, snack time. They know oh, it's cereal time because dad, wakes up and gives me breakfast. Like, these are things that, as mundane as they are, that's where we really bonded over the years, because they knew that they could rely on me for those kinds of things. And I
Yeah.
think now that, again, stepping into this new phase where I'm like single dad now, that's really where I focus on the most. Like, I want to build structure. I want to make sure I'm consistent. But I never connected that consistency with that uh memory before. So that's
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
And the other thing that I think, the reason why that stuff is so cool as a parent, just like the mundane, like feeding them and taking care of their basic needs and saying, hey, here's how you don't pee on the toilet seat. And, you know, here's how you make a Pop Tart.
Right,
And
right, right, right,
like,
right, right.
here's how you get to Netflix
Right.
kids, and like all that, like the thing that I think about that, and it doesn't, to me, it doesn't seem like that would be, I mean, that's not like a unpopular parenting opinion. I think that, like, those are little, like, those are tangible ways that you're building trust
Yeah,
through caring for your kids,
yeah.
right? And one of the things that I think about is that you can't build trust without vulnerability,
Ooh.
right? Like, you can't build, like, strong trust with people without vulnerability,
That's true.
right? And vulnerability comes from being uncomfortable,
Oh, yeah.
right? Until, like, the consistency makes it comfortable.
Right.
And, like, you're providing something for your kids that is absolutely going to be foundational for them growing up to be emotionally healthy. And that is consistently caring for them and comforting them and being vulnerable with them.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it is. Like, might have days where you struggle, and if you want to build and create little empaths, you've got to tell your kids when you're struggling.
Yeah.
Like one of the greatest things that I accidentally discovered as a dad was that arguably I've got challenging children, like, objectively,
Mhm.
but one of my son who has autism oftentimes is like very emotional and like has a really hard time kind of self-regulating. And one of the things that I have found is that I can pull him out of a I can pull him out of a tantrum or a fit or like just an emotional blowout. I can pull him out if I tell him how I feel. I can pull him out if I tell him how I feel. If I say, "Hey, I'm really sad right now." Like I and I don't do that to manipulate him.
Right.
One of the reasons why I do it is that it gets the focus from him. It gets him like he's inwardly focused about
Mhm.
himself and how he feels. And so I redirect his attention to how I feel,
Yeah.
right? And it's been one of the coolest things to watch him grow in that and to become more kind of emotionally invested in people, which is really difficult for him. Just, I mean, it's difficult for most of us, to be quite honest, but it's like really,
Yeah.
really hard for him. And it's been one of the greatest things for me to watch. And I mean, it just happened because he was like, I don't even know what it was a few years ago. And I just sat down and I put my head in my hands and I was like, "Hey, buddy, I'm really sad right now. This is like what's happening right now is making me really sad. Like how you're acting, how I'm feeling, I don't know what to do and it makes me sad." And he like stopped and he
Wow.
came over to me and he gave me a hug, which was
Oh,
huge.
huge, huge,
And
huge.
he said, "I'm sad that you're sad." And I was like, "Dang." I mean, it's just like it flipped a switch.
Oh
Like it,
yeah.
it totally flipped a switch. And I was like, I mean, for me, it was a really big deal.
Huge. Huge deal.
And I think that that's the type of, like, I see you doing stuff like that. Like I think that you're so good at empathizing with kids and like dropping what you're doing and like entering their world. Like if you've got a kid who's like really struggling and they come to you from someone else's class period, you will stop your class and like go take care of that kid. I know because that's a true story.
I was gonna
At
say
least
we
once.
we
At
we
least
already
at least once. We
yeah
had a mutual.
we did,
We
and
we
and
did.
that did happen. Yeah, and there she wasn't the
Yeah.
only
And,
one.
and no, and it's just like, and those things are, I don't know. I think that those things are, and when kids see us do that, I honestly think that a lot of times I hope that they get the idea that we would do that for any one of them,
Oh, they
right? Like for
do.
any one of them.
They totally know that.
And
They totally
uh
know that.
and I think that that's probably the type of father that you are,
I try.
right? And
Yeah.
and well, that's the thing is like we either become what we see the most of, or we become what we wanted and didn't have.
Oh.
And so like you are a very gentle protector, like you're a like see
Wow.
the thing with protection is that, like, let's take I don't know, let's take the analogy of like a soldier or a warrior, right?
Right.
Like there's this concept that we have in our mind when we think about someone protecting someone else, and we envision someone who's like physically imposing, and they have armor or they have weapons, right? Or they're like intimidating, like someone who can step in between us and whatever the threat is, and like be a shield for us, or like take the force, whatever that looks like, whether that's emotional or physical. Like we think of protection as a barrier,
Yeah.
right? Like someone or something between us and what's out there.
Mhm.
And I think we just get it wrong, right? Like I think protection looks more like a hug than it looks like a gun,
I mean,
you know?
honestly, my when people talk about grit and they talk about, well, you got to toughen kids up, and kids need to be tougher and kids need to be this. But you know what? Where grit comes from? Grit comes from self-love. Grit comes from having the courage to do what you need to do because you feel that you have value. Like, like, and and you've done this. I know you've done this, but you can love a kid just enough for them to realize, hey, you know what? Maybe I should try. And they'll try not because they think they not because they think, well, I can do this, but because by you loving them and you hugging them, you're giving them almost like that permission, that courage, that little bit for them to just try for themselves. And it's that little bit that gets them going. And it is a sort of protection. It is a sort of shield, because when you hug someone or you love someone or you care for someone, you give them this permission, you give them this like this like yeah, it is. I mean, it is a shield. It is a shield. It's like you said. But that toughness is from that love. It's from that. And I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. You can. I just think we're different humans now. I think our society is different, and I think we're on the edge of understanding all of this. But I think people like you and people like me, we're a few steps away because this is our bread and butter. Like, this is what we do. We're our. I mean, yeah, we teach, but our job is to love kids. Like what we really, really, really do is love kids, and we love kids, and we
Yeah,
love them enough to where they have the courage within themselves to finish an assignment, even though they hate the assignment, they hate they hate the lecture, they hate the doing the work, they hate the worksheet, they hate the test, they hate the whatever. But because you are there and you're with them and you're present and you love them, just like your kids, you know, you're there, you're loving them, but they feel safe. And when your son told you, I'm sad that you're sad, I mean, that's a courageous thing. That took guts for him to say that. That took
oh yeah,
incredible courage for him
yeah,
to snap out of what he was going through and switch the way he did. Like, that's
right,
just awesome.
yeah. I mean, and there was no way that he, like, I mean, I believe that we have a responsibility to each other, like, just as humans, to be careful with, like, how we respond, right? Because how I respond could be the thing that becomes, that instant for him where he realizes that I'm not who he thought I was,
Yeah.
right? And so, like, I have the responsibility to be careful in how, like, I respond to my kids and my students and things like that, because it just takes once.
Oh
It
yeah.
just takes once to lose trust, and then, I mean, you can rebuild that, but it's never the same.
No, it's not the same.
It's always going to be different. It's always going to be a little, like that little tree that, like, made it through the storm, right? It's always going to grow a little bit crooked,
Yeah.
you know. And so, I think that, there's some I think that there's something to be said for, you know being the type of people who protect kids and give them the liberty to, like, to be vulnerable with us and to learn what that's like. And on the one hand, like, I mean, it doesn't, like, do I really want my kids to be so hard and so, like, tough that they miss opportunities to love people who are, like, more
Wow.
vulnerable than them,
Yeah.
like, I think that I would make the case against, like like teaching our kids to be tough. And I think that, I mean, that's obviously, like, a very societal thing, and that can be a very,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
community or even culturally, kind of ingrained idea, especially when it comes to, like, manhood, and, like,
Mhm.
what does it mean to be a man, like what's a man to you, right? Like,
Mhm.
um and 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 I just wonder, like, when people say stuff like that, I'm like, why? Like, why do my kids need to be so tough that they're, like, I'm just training them to not be broken by the world, right? And what's the point of, I want my kids to have the capacity to be broken for other people. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I want for my kids to be heartbroken when they see certain circumstances. I want for them to be heartbroken enough to say something about them or to do something about them, right? And if I'm, not, um if I'm not careful, and I'm just, uh trying to teach the kids to be, like, one dimensional, then they're gonna miss out on, I think I'm making it harder for them to understand who they are,
Oh.
right? That they're gonna miss out on their identity and who they're supposed to be if I'm trying to emphasize one thing, you know, about them, or one thing, like one way that I want them to, uh, interact with or be or present themselves to the world or to, people, um, in their, like, that they have relationships with. I think that that's a I think you're walking a I think when people do that, they're walking a fine line between, like, helping their kids and hurting their kids.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. So you can't. This world is more than just one dimension, and just more than
Yeah,
your perspective. Like,
yeah,
and honestly, I can honestly say that where I got that capacity from was from my mother, because my mother was kind of like the counterbalance to the chaos. And
yeah,
and she's not a perfect human being, but
sure.
definitely she was the one that like would always emphasize there's more than one way of looking at things. There's more than,
Yeah,
even with my dad, like, you still got to understand he's a human being, and he's got flaws, and he's got this. And it's like I know 100% my ability to, my capacity for being that, what you said, that gentle protector, was because I had to protect myself. I had to protect my mom. I had to protect my brother. I had to protect like my animals. Like there was always something going on, but the only thing that I knew what to do was to like love and hug. So that's just what I got good at, because
yeah,
that was what was within my power, I guess. You know,
yeah,
I did kung fu, but like, you know,
yeah,
that's not, that didn't help me solve a lot of problems. Well, maybe it did, but I mean,
yeah,
but yeah, no, I'm definitely, you know, yeah. When even now with like, when we got sick, my mom, sana sana colita de rana, si no sana soy. You know what I mean? Like with
yeah,
the little Mexican sayings, and and kisses, and I that's what I do. Like that's
yeah,
that's what I know, and it works. That's all I know. I know that's all I know, and I know that most of the time it works. Most of the time.
yeah,
Can't pay a bill like that,
yeah.
but
No, but uh, paying bills is never what it's really about, anyways.
True that. True that.
I mean, they're either gonna get paid or they won't,
There you
you
go.
know. And there's other stuff is still gonna be important.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
that's good, man. I appreciate you sharing that
Yeah.
experience with me.
No, well, thank you for opening that up. I think that
Sure.
I appreciate. I never had the time to like really process that. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense to me. I never thought of myself as a gentle protector, but I'll take your word for it. I'll run.
Yeah.
But I think you're. I don't know. I feel like you're that way too, especially
Yeah.
knowing what I know, especially
Yeah.
from the kid's perspective. I think we both have that in common for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always been a really big person. Like, even when I was a kid, I was really big, and I just remember both of my parents. My dad was pretty big. He wasn't as big as I was, but um, I remember both of them emphasizing the idea that, like, I needed to be gentle because I was big, and because people eventually would be intimidated by me. So I was almost, in a way, kind of taught to not take up very much space, um,
That's interesting.
physically, emotionally, or otherwise. And it's taken a lot of therapy to unpack
I was
all
gonna
those
say.
all those layers. But But yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, like I said, I think that I think that I think the world would just be much better off if we carried the responsibility to be careful with other people.
Golly.
I think that it would be a total game changer. And I can't change the world, but I can decide like how I carry myself in it,
Yeah,
and that can make a difference,
100%.
and so, I've got you know, a ton of different experiences that have sorted through to bring me to where I am today, and then keep having them. I mean, they don't stop. So,
No, they don't.
but
All right, so next week is your time,
okay,
your story. I'm really curious what next week's gonna
okay,
be. So
okay. Do we want to keep the same? Do you want to keep the same homework, or do you want to give me something different?
no, let's keep the same homework for
Okay,
next week, and then maybe after that
okay,
we'll come up with something new.
okay.
Because I
Sounds
want to
good.
know your answer.
Okay.
All right.
Let's do that, and then you be thinking of your homework is to think of the next homework. We'll do that. You can come up with the
I'll come up with the
you
next
can
prompt.
next task, and
All
then I'll
right.
go first.
Oh, okay. That works. That sounds good.
So, all
All right,
right, man.
brother.
Hey, thanks for talking.
No, thank you. Take care. We'll see you. Have a good
All
week.
right,
All right,
bye.
man. Bye.